Welcome to the EdTech Chat and Chew podcast, the podcast where four passionate teachers from different parts of the country get together on their lunch breaks to share resources, tips, and ideas to help you empower your students. Each week, we'll do our best to inform and inspire you with the amazing things that are happening in our schools. We're very happy that you've joined us today. And now, here's your host, Diane Smokorowski.
This is week 9 of our EdTech Chat and Chew, episode 9, and we're excited to be hanging out with you today. We're going to be talking about surviving the state assessments. What are your plans, and how can you turn out to make it a great week versus a, oh my goodness, it's this week kind of an adventure. Always with me are my fabulous friends. From Texas, my two friends, we have Andrea.
Hey guys.
Karen.
Hello.
And Mike's from Pennsylvania.
Hello there.
And I'm Diane from Kansas. Okay, friends, it's about that time of year. Are you guys excited?
No.
Like, yay!
Yeah, that awkward pause is pretty common. And I'm going to say that all of our listeners are going to be at that same space, like, oh, yeah, it's that week. But I think there's ways that we can at least try to turn that frown upside down a little bit and see if we can't make it a week for kids because, you know, if anything, we've got to be that brave face in front of all those children who are kind of stressing out. Would you agree?
Exactly.
Exactly. Okay. And then, Mike, we also have a couple of audience questions that we need to address today, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I think we've got four listener questions that we want to get to. So.
Okay. Well, let's start with assessments. All right, my friends in Texas, assessments are a whole different animal down in there. So, Andrea, let's start with you. What do you do to help teachers survive the assessments and students?
Well, actually, what we do on our campus is we have like a giant buffet, which is really nice. So anybody that's helping with the assessments, 3rd through 5th, and any other special teachers will actually sign up to bring breakfast items or snack items or lunch items. So that way, when we do have a chance to leave the room the official way, we can go down to our staff workroom and have a space where we can just munch, not talk about the test, but munch and just regroup before we head back in. So that's kind of how we survive it.
And you know what? Homemade yummies just make happiness in a school anyway.
And two, and usually they are homemade yummies, and so the person that's making them can then get some of that stress out too by making something, which is always nice.
Very nice. Okay, Karen?
Okay, so right now as an instructional technology specialist, I'm kind of protected from testing, so I can't test. So I'm going to tell you what I used to do when I was in the classroom. In Texas, you have to actively monitor your students, and you're not allowed to read their questions, and you're not allowed to read a story or work on grading or do anything. You have to just stay focused on monitoring your students. So I used to bring in my pedometer, strap it on, and wear some tennis shoes that didn't squeak or shoes that didn't have clicky heels, and I would walk around and, check out how many steps I took that day, and keep myself from becoming too exhausted, because it's really exhausting just sitting there watching students. And so I would actively monitor and bring my pedometer, and that would help me survive the day. And of course, smile at those kids.
Absolutely. Mike, what do you guys do?
Well, our testing schedule for the last couple of years has been that we give a test in the morning, and then the afternoons are kind of free. And a lot of teachers have taken that afternoon to show a movie or do something to try and limit the stress level of the kids and of themselves, because everyone's fried from the tests. But what I've done the last couple of years that's worked really well is I've gone the exact opposite direction. And we have tried to put one of our coolest project-based learning or problem-based learning lessons of the year during testing week, so that kids have something to look forward to and get excited about in the afternoon. And last year we used one of Kevin Honeycutt and Ginger Lumen's project-based learning cards from the Life Practice Model site that they have. And we went back in time and tried to save Lincoln from assassination, and we came up with maps, and each kid had a different job to do, and it was just an incredible project-based learning, problem-based learning lesson where everyone was engaged and fired up, and even though the morning was a disaster and horrible and we had the test going on, at least everyone was enthused about something during that week, and it helped us get through it much better than had we just popped in a movie or something like that.
Well, and you know, Mike, that the life practice model cards that Ginger Lumen and Kevin Honeycutt have produced are actually now an app, so anybody can access them.
I did not know that, but that is awesome, and if I would highly recommend those to anyone. I think their first 7 sets. I think they have an 8th set out now that I have to get. But I have teachers that come up all the time and just want to flip through to see if there's something that they can do, and that gives me, as a curriculum support coach, something to help them with. So I'm always fired up about that.
Well, and the apps, I think each card set is like $5. It's really cheap. Comparatively, you know, you don't have to wait for shipping. You can download it straight away. So that's an excellent idea. You know, this year I'm not testing because I'm out of the classroom this year, but the way we have it set up in Kansas is that 1 week they do the math, another week they'll do the writing, another week they do the science and so forth. And it's 3 days. So when I taught language arts, the testing, I had several hours of the day in secondary, so it was a full day of testing. But like Karen said, I think you're up and moving so much to make sure the students have everything they need. But one thing that I did just to help make sure I was ready for the day is I created a folder of here are my instructions of what I have to say out loud, here are the test cards. I had everything in order before I walked in, just so that everything started nice and smoothly. And I did go in before school began and made sure all the computers turned on, made sure students had no problems with logging in. It's just one less stress for those children to be able to jump in and go ahead straight away. But the weeks that I wasn't giving the test, so it was a math or science or social studies week, then we did something similar like you were describing, Mike. We actually had children create children's books. Like some do pop-up books, some of them would just draw them all out, but it was a chance for them to be creative. I wasn't going out and having to do a lot of research or any additional kinds of things. It just gave them a creative outlet, and they loved it, absolutely loved it.
Yeah, so I like that, and I think that creativity is so important because the tests that they're taking are turning them catatonic. I mean, they're drooling on their desks. It's just an awful experience for them, and you know, giving them something that snaps them out of that is so valuable to them.
Oh, absolutely. And just to have them, you know, there's nothing worse than sitting all day. You know, it's like sitting on an airplane if you're going across the planet. They give you movies for a reason, so your brain is having something to do, you know. So I think it's something that we have to do to make sure our kids are having an outlet, like you said. I love it. Okay, so what is the first question, Mike?
All right, we have a question from one of our listeners, Angela McCullough, and she left this on our Facebook page, and she says, "Good morning, all. An idea just struck me. I was wondering if you could brainstorm with me. My husband just gave me a lovely box of Valentine candy. Due to snow, it was late. So shame on her husband for being late. But he tells me he could pick a percentage of what type of candy goes in the box. I suddenly realized what a great idea to use with second graders, tech, and the fraction standards. Do any ideas come to mind for you? Making a video of snapping pictures and making an assignment. I would love ideas, suggestions when you have a chance. Thank you." So she's looking for ideas of how to incorporate something real world like a box of chocolates and some tech into a math lesson. So does anyone want to take a crack at this before me? Or?
Well, I know, Michael, you've got an awesome one, but we did something kind of like that where we took a picture of the kids took a picture, and then had to write percentages about themselves, like 100% or 70% student, 30% athlete, so all equal to 100%. So it's kind of cool, like you see those in the magazine, and so it's got the kid's profile picture with the numbers beside it. Was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's great. This is kind of in my wheelhouse, being a math guy. I mean, I love teaching math and I love tech, so this question, I was excited to get this. I'm very big on having kids model, whether it's drawing models or actually creating models with manipulatives or real-world items. And I think that something like a box of Valentine candy, because kids all have experience with it and know that there's different flavors in there, this is a great opportunity for kids to model. So whether it's drawn or whether you use something to represent the candies inside the box. But what I would suggest for someone looking to share those models, because having kids create them is great, but we also want kids to be able to share their learning. And so if you've got a class blog or a class wiki or a website or something, I would definitely either take a picture and have kids record video over that picture describing their model, or else just videotape kids with their models explaining what exactly that they have in front of them and what they did to create it. And there's a great free website called My Brain Shark. It's mybrainshark.com. That will allow you to either take that picture and record over it with a microphone, or upload your videos, or if you put it into a PowerPoint presentation with each kid's model being a different slide, you can then have the kids record over that PowerPoint presentation. So that's the kind of tool that I would use to share models like the box of chocolates.
Excellent.
Love it.
Well,
I'm thinking about boxes of chocolates if you have an extra second. Sometimes you've got heart-shaped boxes, really nice to teach halves, right? Not really quarters, but halves. You've got square boxes, you've got rectangular boxes, so I think there's a lot of different directions they can go with those, but definitely I would take pictures and have them explain it.
Yeah, and I love that. I mean, you could talk about lines of symmetry, how you divide a heart into, there's only one line of symmetry there, but a square would have multiple.
Yeah.
I love that. And of course, I'm not a math person, I'm more language arts, but I'm already seeing in my head about the idea of using figurative language with the chocolates. You could do some statistics of who likes the coconut, who doesn't. I mean, you can build graphs and go all that direction. But, if you pick one of these chocolates, and they don't have to be real ones, they could be, even design what flavor would be the best chocolate, and then write 2 or 3 similes or metaphors that explain how that describes you, and kind of go from that direction. So it's a language arts thing. So, okay. What's next, Mike?
Okay, I think that both Andrea and Karen had a question from a listener also, right? One of you guys want to go before I read my second?
Oh, I do. Sure. Okay, so I had a listener, Shannon, and from Amarillo, ask, what would you recommend for the best iOS app for iPad that students use to generate comic strips? The app can cost money. This is for high school kids to use in a geometry class for an upcoming project.
Great question. Great question. And you said that it needs to be free, or does it matter?
It can cost money.
Comic Life. That's my #1 go-to. I love the fact they can take pictures with it, customize over it. It is $4.99, but hands down probably one of the easiest comic design tools. What do you guys say?
I've been using StoryMe, which I have really loved. That it's a free app, and you import the pictures, and you can add captions and bubbles, which is fun. So that's what I've been using. But I definitely want to look more into Comic Life.
Yeah, I've got 2 suggestions, but unfortunately I don't know that they're going to help our listener that wrote that question, because since I deal mostly with elementary, that's kind of where I was looking. The first one, it's called Comics Head, and it's a $3.99 app, and very much your typical comic strip creator. So that may be an option. The second one is definitely an elementary app, though, and this is really cool for kindergarten and first grade students, really down in the lower primary levels, and it's called Drawing Torch. And it's I think it's $1.99, but I haven't bought it in a while. It's been on my iPad for a couple months. But it goes along with the Night Zookeeper site. If anyone's ever used that.
Oh, good stuff.
Very cool.
And so it starts with they have to roar to activate their drawing torch, and then it has a background and a story that goes with it. So that's not necessarily a comic strip, but it definitely allows them to illustrate a story in there. So those would be my 2 suggestions.
That's cool.
I have one then. Go ahead.
I was just saying, the Night at the Zookeeper has put out on the Skype and Education website that he's got a new call that he'll do an activity with students. So I'll put that in our show notes today.
Yeah, excellent.
Today. Okay. Karen.
Awesome. I was going to say that I'm a big user of Comic Life as well, but the one that I found as an alternative is called Comic Book with an exclamation at the end. So Comic Book, and it's $1.99, and it does a lot of things similar. It's not. It can't do as much as you can in Comic Life. There you go. But you can change all of the filters and make it look very comic book-like. You have the stickers, you have the captions you can add in, the thought bubbles, and you can export it as a PDF, export it as a JPEG. You can share it straight from the iPad. So that's another good alternative for $1.99.
Wow.
Excellent. Okay, so Karen, you had a question.
Okay, so I had a science coach approach me this week, and he was asking me, last week, excuse me, he was asking me, he said, I have $10,000 worth of grant money that I am allowed to spend on technology. I just found out. And he says, so I'm trying to decide whether I should go with iPads, Windows Surface, or Chromebooks, and they're 5th grade students. And so I'm wondering what you guys would suggest, and I did ask him basically first off. I said, what is your hope for your students? What would you like them to create? How do you see yourself using technology in the classroom? And what kind of things would you like your kids to produce? That's what I asked him first, just to kind of get him thinking about it. But
good call. And how many students does he have?
It varies. About 20 to 24 students.
Okay. Oh, go ahead.
No, only because at TCEA there was actually a session that Hall Davidson did with I think Erica was her name, and it was like a smackdown of the different tools of the different like Chromebook, Surface, whatever, and they compared each one to the other and kind of how what they preferred and what they want to do on it and how they compared towards each other. So I'll definitely post that link later so you can go back and look at it. It was pretty cool though to have them up there talking about the different ways that each one of them does have some great attributes to it, but not necessarily for each classroom. So it was really cool. It was a good resource.
Yeah, I think to answer that question, in that situation where those devices are going to stay in his class and there's going to be different kids coming in and using them at different times, for that kind of situation, I think I would go with Chromebooks. And reason being, I think iPads are fantastic, and if you were going one-to-one and you had the money to do it and you had teachers that knew how to use them, I think iPads are probably your optimal choice. But in this case, the ability for kids to be able to save things to Google Drive and log in multiple different locations and work from home and collaborate with each other using Google tools, I think that in that situation where those devices are not going to be individually possessed but shared, I would go with Chromebooks.
So let me ask you another question. What if your district is not a Google district?
Yeah,
and
we're
so
not.
If your fifth graders do not have Google accounts, would you still recommend a Chromebook?
Ooh. Good question, because they really need to have that feature in order for the Chromebook to work. You have to have a Google email to log in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The benefit is, if you buy, let's say it's $300, there's your total for 24 of them. So, that's one benefit of the whole thing. I would definitely suggest that if they could go that direction, I would do that. Mm-hmm. But if they can't, Mac Minis or iPad Minis may be your best direction.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really think it matters so much as the tool. It's again what you want the students to experience. Because it doesn't matter what tool you have, you're going to make it work for whatever kids that you have.
And if he's science too, like they were talking about for his Hall Davidson works with Discovery Ed, they're talking about how the tech book works on the different platforms also. So I don't know if that's when they use the Discovery Ed tech book that they have for science.
I'll have to check it out. I told him that I thought the iPad Mini, I kind of went along with that because the Chromebook, we don't have Google accounts for our students, and then the whole trying to get a fifth grade Google account with parent permission, I wasn't sure about that. But I know iPad, you can get the the Google Drive app, so we could still utilize that stuff for free. The iPad comes with the camera, a video camera, so they could take pictures during science labs and then turn them around as products to review. So I think we're leaning that way, but I just wondered because, we all have different situations. So.
We're in a similar situation. When I was down in P&C last week, I was down there with one of my IT guys, and I think 2 weeks ago I would have answered, iPad minis or iPads for the classroom, but I got sold on Chromebooks when I was down there. But we have the same problem. We're not a Google Apps for Ed school, and so I was there next to my IT guy, luckily, and I said, all right, now you see why we need to go Google Apps. You need to go sell this to your higher-ups because, the benefits are just so great.
They're a lot easier to share information with kids than the iPads, I'll tell you. It just works.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that answers it totally, but hopefully that gives a direction. And Mike, you had one last question?
Yeah, last question. This is from actually someone that I met at P&C, and I gave them our email address. And they said, hi, I met you at the conference, and you mentioned some amazing projects you're doing with kindergarten students, and I was hoping I could try some of your ideas with my class. Please let me know how I can get started with technology.
Great question.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell that teacher right up the front, it's all about creativity with little people. Mm-hmm. Creativity and research. We have a group of kindergarten right now whose units of study are on celebrations of why we celebrate and so forth. Well, what the teacher has done is created a calendar on the floor with symbols, like February has Valentine hearts and that sort of thing. And she did symbols from around the year, and not just what you would celebrate in our own community, but what's on a global scale. And then asked the students to pick which one of these do you not know a whole lot about that you would like to investigate. And then how are you going to create a party around that theme? Is kind of where they came with it.
Cool.
But we're talking 5-year-olds, and the students can use the technology in order to design this party. You know, they can draw what colors and things they want to use for it, what decorations, and who's invited, make an invitation, all kinds of great things. What do you guys say?
Working with kindergarten and special ed, my first thing I put in kids' hands is a camera, because it's super low tech, but the technology that you can do beyond that, and just getting over that fear of putting a device or something in their hands is like the biggest step. So camera has always been my first go-to thing whenever I introduce technology into the lower grades.
Great idea. Karen?
I was going to say something very similar, so I'll go with iPad. No. Yeah, iPad has a camera.
Go steal iPad minis from the science teacher and bring them back to your kindergarten classroom.
You're good to go. You're good to go.
It's going to be a little different now. But no, the camera, because they love to take photos, and you can send them on several scavenger hunts in your classroom to look for different concepts that they're studying, be it shapes or items that start with the letter this, So taking pictures and collecting animals, reptile, taking them on field trips with you when you go to the zoo, those kind of things I think they really enjoy. And then just dropping them into a quick little slideshow so they can share, right? And if you bring in something like the mic, like on the iPad, it has a microphone, then they can explain their understanding as well, which I love. And then there's other apps so they can, draw as well on top. So I think it, like Diane said, creativity. Just look at what they're learning and look around. And if you have something simple like a camera and a microphone, there's so much you could do.
Mm-hmm. And I will throw one piece in that I think Symbaloo is the best thing ever for little people. And you can pull those links and things out for the students. Like on our research, we're putting it in Symbaloo, so all I have to do is open the app, and then all the links that we provided for the research are right there.
Yeah, my kindergarten student does the same thing with Symbaloo. She uses that as her gateway for her students to get to different places.
And one of my favorite resources for kindergarten is Matt B. Gomez, who does amazing. He's a kindergarten teacher, and he actually leads Kinder Chat. But his blog is fantastic, and he has Symbaloos out the wazoo. Like Matt B. Gomez, he's amazing.
And
definitely share that on the show notes, because I have not heard of him before, and I would love to be able to share that.
Okay, Mike, what would you add? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Karen.
I was going to say one of my favorite things about his blog is that he shows student examples. Like his real students have created things, and so that's really powerful. So if you get to check out his blog.
Yeah.
Excellent.
My answer would be the first thing you need is somewhere to share your students' work. And so I would recommend KidBlog. I think that's a fantastic way to have a place for each student to have their own personal space, and also as a teacher it gives you a place to post your work. So then once you have that KidBlog account set up, give your kids the camera, let them go around and take pictures of their learning, and start with things that maybe you already do. So like our kindergarten teachers do kid writing. So we started with just taking a picture of their kid writing and letting them then type underneath their pictures, what they wrote in their books. And once kindergarten teachers got comfortable with that, then they wanted to do some new things, and they wanted to, start putting those slideshows in or use an Animoto, and we got them hooked on the Virtual Valentine's Project. And so from there, they, the blogging was a way to get their feet wet. And then once the parents were leaving comments for their kids, and they were getting comments from different countries and different places, then that made them want to taste a little bit more. So if she's looking just to start out, I think that my suggestion would be start a KidBlog account and start taking pictures of what you already do, and then build from there.
I totally agree.
But on that note, though, I am all about sharing and everything. Make sure that you've got good parent permission when you do start sharing your stuff globally. And I know that we all do that, but sometimes we get so excited that we forget. And not that parents usually ever mind, but always make sure that you're following your good district protocols and all that good stuff.
Well said.
Good call. Okay, friends, it's time to run. So, Mike, what's for lunch today?
I made myself a fantastic salad for the Seinfeld fans out there. I had the big salad today for lunch.
The big salad. Karen?
Chicken. I'm eating my chicken and cucumbers.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, Andrea?
Chicken and dumplings.
Chicken and dumplings. Oh, and I'm having almond butter and cherries. So there it is. Okay, my friends, have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, friends, for joining us for this week's EdTech Chat and Chew. We love getting together to learn from each other, and we're happy that you were able to learn along with us today. You can make sure that you don't miss an episode by subscribing to the podcast on iTunes or to our YouTube channel. If you enjoy the podcast, and you got a few good ideas today, please take a second to leave us a review on iTunes. Leaving a review is a great way to let others know about the show. Show notes and more information about topics from today's episode can be found on our website, edtechchatandchew.weebly.com. If you have questions for us or would like to give us some feedback, drop us an email at edtechchatandchew@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll try and get your questions answered on future shows. On behalf of the podcast team, I'd like to wish you a week filled with all of the amazing things that make teaching the greatest job in the world. Our recording schedule for the next few weeks is going to be juggled a bit, because each of us is off on an amazing adventure. Next episode, we'll be sure to share those experiences with you. See you next time. Until then, keep on learning.